Tell him, move it on. John. Yeah, it's on. It won't move. There you go. Hey, Steve, what's going on? Hey, Larry.
How you doing, young man?
Fine, sir. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Keep your seat, sir.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
I need to stand up here most of all so those joints keep working.
I know that feeling.
You're not there yet, Moses.
Oh, I'm closer than you think.
The Smith-Peter family is homesick.
Are they? Okay, we better mention that. Okay, thank you. Okay. My clock says it's time to start. Please come on in. Harry? All right, here we go. I think I mentioned last week, although there's opposition, listen, it's been amazing. I've been doing this for over 50 years, and there's one subject that most people, take that back. Some people, and it feels like most people, oppose being taught. And usually there is a reason for that. And I don't know all the reasons, and I'm not going to go through them. But I will say this. It's a biblical subject. For an example, you remember last week? Whoops.
Just say I need help.
I need help, please. I need help, John. All right, thanks. We said that the word give, gave, or given is used, give is used 835 times. The word gave is used 140 times. And that includes John 3:16, by the way. For God so loved the world that he what? Gave. He gave what? His son. Okay? So the word is used several times in the Bible. Given is used 32. That surprised me a little bit. But it is. A total of 1,007 times the subject comes up in the entire Bible. Now you may find more. That's the ones I found. Okay? That's the New King James Version. Now, King James may have more or less, or the ESV may have more or less. But in the New King James Version, there is 1,007. Now, I use the New King James Version because I used the old King James Version for about 30 years. Okay? And I'll use some of the words, and basically I think they're archaic words that are used in the King James Version that people kept asking me. And I said, well, let me just get the New King James. And I looked at it, and it's a little clearer. In fact, it's a lot clearer in a lot of places. I don't agree with everything in the King James because of the words they use, and sometimes like the word Easter. You know, King James Version uses the word Easter, okay? And that is not the word it's supposed to be. And so we have some problems. King James uses the word hell in places like Acts 2. Did not leave my soul in hell. No, the word is Hades. That the hell is an eternal place. Jesus did not go to the eternal place. He went to the grave, and that's what Hades means. He went to the grave and he was resurrected. He overcame death. Death started back when? Sorry? When did death start? Genesis. With whom? Adam and Eve. Okay? No? But as far as spiritual death, there was a separation between God and Adam and Eve when they took the fruit. I get tickled sometimes when they say he took the apple. The apple's not even found in the text. Okay, but they use it over and over and over. I said, look at the text. What does it say? Where's the apple? It's not there. Okay. Now, that's where it started, as far as I know. And one reasons why that we have John 3:16 and other passages is because what basically took place back in Genesis, the consequences, listen to me carefully, the consequences of sin was passed down from generation to generation because people sin. People break God's law. And they need to make it right, and make it right as much as they possibly can, any way they can. Sometimes people won't let you. But you do whatever you can to make it right and then move on, okay? And people do sin. In fact, Romans chapter 3 and verse 23, it says, all have what? Sin and come short of what? Glory of God. And so it's not a person on earth that has overcome sin. So God gave his son, and that's one of the passages we have in the 1007 that we find in the entire Bible. Now we talked about definition. We gave examples of it last week. And then we talked about 2 Corinthians. That's a good passage, very good passage. One that we need to keep in mind. The latter part where it's underlined, but they gave first, the Bible says, themselves to the Lord, and then to us by the will of God. And so that's one of the key things to have. We looked at some passages I went over with you, and then I was talking about these things about having giving. I believe if we're going to give and give well and have something to give, we need to put giving at the top of the list. Really. Before you do your house payment, car payment, buy anything, you need to think about giving to the Lord. Now, what you give, how much you give is up to you. It's not up to me, okay? It is up to you how much you give. If you're not giving anything, and I'm sure everybody is here, but if you're not giving anything for our audience, at least start with $1 a week. And you'll find that you will increase over a period of time. You know, even $1 for some people, it's hard because they're used to keeping it in their pocket, you know. And it's easy to do because we all have certain needs. And then I don't think it, some people have ever been taught. Like I told you last week, I was in my 40s. I was at Conyers, Georgia. And I had a good brother, a good friend. He's still a good friend. I talk with him, have coffee with him, have lunch with him. He calls me every birthday. He calls me, okay? But he helped me tremendously, because he took me aside. I was a preacher there and helped me learn some things I needed to know, you know. And that one, he taught me very, very well, and I appreciate it. But Brother Jim Simpson, I have high esteem for the man that I could ever have. He's so very kind, very helpful, very concerning, and he talked about giving. And one of the things he said, we need to teach about giving. Number one, we need, first of all, teach our children. By the way, not only teach them, we need to train them about giving. Okay? And sometimes parents never get around to it. We need to teach them. I'm afraid, and I'm going to get off the subject just a second. I'm afraid that we're not teaching our children the plan of salvation like we did. And about the church, the oneness of it. Listen, the church is the most precious thing on this earth. It is. It was so important that Jesus did what? Gave himself. In fact, Acts 20, verse 28, it says, and he purchased the church with his, watch this, own blood. Now, when I read that, I think about David. You remember David counted the people, and David was told not to, but he did it anyway. Okay, and it brought a plague upon the people, and they were dying. And David, I got to get this right. And so he went up to the threshing floor, a threshing floor, I should say, and he wanted to use it. And the guy who owned it says, oh, here, you can have it. I'll give it to you. Whatever you need, I'll give it to you. What did David say? No, I offer nothing to my Lord that costs me nothing. Now, I know that's a double negative, but he said, I'm going to tell you, it's got to cost you. And we're going to talk about that a little bit this morning. All right, never been taught, failed to realize who is the owner. I'm going to talk about that a little bit this morning. Some of us don't know about the budget. We talk impulse buying, and then we talk about being like the Dead Sea. What does it mean to be like the Dead Sea and giving? It means you're taking in, but you're not giving out. You know? If you're just taking in and you're not giving anything out to the Lord or to help in the service of God, let me tell you something. We die. You don't think you do, don't give and see what happens. It won't take you long. It may be taking a year, 2 years, whatever it is. You'll be drying up and won't get involved. Be griping and complaining about it, everything. Oh, by the way, I was told just a few moments ago, and I forgot. Please forgive me. I get in a hurry, get to my lesson. But Brother Ed Smith Peters and his family are sick at home today, so we want to keep him in our prayers, if we will. So, Brother Scott, how about leading us in prayer for the Smith Peters family, please, sir?
Father in heaven, thank you so much for allowing us to be here today to gather together and to worship you. And thank you, Father, for this opportunity to learn more about stewardship. And at this time, we want to offer a prayer for Brother Ed and for his family for their health. Pray, Father, that you will bless them through whatever the sickness might be, that you will watch over them and keep them safe, and that you'll bring them back again with us as soon as possible. Pray that you'll bless us all as we go through this day. Help us, Father, to concentrate on you, to focus on your word. We pray this all in your Son's name. Amen.
So that's what we are. We don't need to be the Dead Sea. We need to be able. If people are not giving something, they need to give something. I'm not saying how much, but you need to give something to stay alive spiritually. I'm just telling you. If you don't give, you're probably not happy with your spirituality. You're not happy about what's going on. You're not happy about this. Just give a little and see what it does. It energizes you. Because you're doing something to help other people. You're doing something to help the church, is the idea. Any thoughts before I go on? Well, yes, sir.
Along those lines, when I was doing the work in Haiti, working with the work in Haiti, they were building a building. They were trying to refurbish a house. That's what they have for a building.
Yes.
And the people who didn't have any money to give brought rebar, sheetrock, nails, anything they could give to help build that building. And that's the spirit we all need to have. They don't have a lot down there at all. But they gave what they had, and they gave it cheerfully, and they're enjoying that building now.
I understand what you say. I went to St. Croix back in 1980, maybe. Yeah, I went to St. Croix, and listen, they were building a building, and it was not a building like this, okay? But they had something they could get under because keep the rain off them at least somewhat, okay? But they had a kind of a brush arbor type thing, if you know what I mean. But they did. I've been to Ukraine 3 times, okay, to teach in school over there. And listen, you talk about, we have this building, and I hope we're getting it paid off. Last I heard, we had 80-something thousand that we left on the bill. It'd be nice if somebody was able, hey, somebody give us a 86,000 so we can finish our building, please. Anyway, it's nothing like this. Ukraine. Thank you. I often wonder about the brethren over in Ukraine since the war started. Everybody with whom I spoke and went over there a lot do not go over there now, okay? And so I had some good Christian friends over there. Very helpful. I didn't know one word of Russian, not a word. But there were people who there helped me. And I'm thankful for God for them. They're good people in Ukraine. And by the way, let me tell you this. The people over there are just like us. They are. The only difference is the flag and the language. Just telling you. We get ideas from other people about other things, and we don't stop and look. I thank God that I was able to go over and teach those 3 times in the Ukraine. But if you know anything or hear anything, have any ability to get me some information about Ukraine, I would deeply appreciate it, because I like to know what the brethren are doing. I don't have anybody's cell phone or phone anything over there, so I would like to know if you could help me with that. Impulse spending can hurt our budget. We talked about that last week, going to the grocery store. Remember that? You spend $1, you say you got $100, you spend $1 here, then pretty soon you're going to spend another $1 somewhere else, and then $2 over there, and next thing you know, you don't have enough money to pay your bills. Okay? We have gifts. We talked about weddings. We talked about baby showers and graduations. We need to plan that before the year. Now, I just be honest with you. If we have it in the budget, I buy gifts for, in fact, what Reba does, she buys things ahead of time and store them back, and when there's something happen, she can pull it out of the brand new box and wrap it up, and that's one way we do it. We do it. I would encourage you to have something for emergencies, because emergencies come up all the time. What would be an emergency?
Flat tire.
Flat tire, that is a big one. Okay, should we have money to take care of tires?
Definitely.
We do. Listen, my first couple of preaching jobs, we didn't have enough money to rub together. We didn't. And what happened is that our tires wore out on a car. They did. You could see the what we call the little wire. You saw the wire in it. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. You could see it, and we were basically riding on air. Okay. It happens, but you do the best you can with what you have. That's what we do. Okay? But we plan for buying tires. Okay? We plan for emergencies, like if your car breaks down. Okay? most people, every family that I know needs a vehicle. And if you got kids, you probably need 2 or 3 vehicles. Okay? Because something can and does happen. So, Brother Simpson, he taught us at Conyers that we need to be our own banker. When you go buy a car, you're your own banker. You go buy something that you need, like a refrigerator, deep freezer, that you be your own banker. So what do you mean be your own banker? I don't understand. He said, listen, you save your money for what you need, and you go down and pay cash. He said, that way you won't be paying interest. You know? And I like the idea. But he also said you can't do that basically for a house. And generally right now, a new car, because a new car, and when those electric things come out, I guess I'll be doing a lot of walking because they're so expensive. I don't know how anybody can afford any of them. It's a little bit over most of our heads, or at least in the country, I would say. So we can overspend easily, okay? How should we give? We should give bountifully. Let's look at this passage in 2 Corinthians 9 and verse 6. Somebody read that for me, please. 2 Corinthians 9 and verse 6. In fact, we'll just go ahead and cover 2 or 3 verses there.
Whoever gets it, raise their hand. Coming at you.
2 Corinthians 9 verse, what verse?
6, starting.
Now this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully.
Keep reading, please.
Each one must do just as he has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that always having all significantly in everything you may have abundance for every good deed.
Thank you very much.
And that was from the New American Standard.
New American Standard. I think it's close to the King James, New King James, and the ESV, if I heard correctly. Yes, he tells us we need to be. We need to give bountifully. He said, he who sows bountifully will reap what? You sow scarcely, you're going to reap how? Scarcely. And that's a principle. We need to understand that God's going to bless us. Give something. Help the church grow. And that takes, unfortunately, I would say this, fortunately and unfortunately, it takes money. We just need to understand, okay? All right, he said every person should give purposely. What does it mean to give purposely? I got to give. We got to give. Pull out the billfold. Here's what.
You already know what you're going to give before you get here.
Yeah. In fact, Reba does our accounting. She does. She's more attention to detail than I am. You know, I'm not as good with it anyway. But every Sunday, she has a check laying there. And her signature is on it if you want to see. Okay? She has it lying there for me to pick up to bring to church and put into contribution every week. And let me tell you something else while I'm talking off the subject. When we go out of town and we're not here on Sunday, when we come back, we put in 2 checks. We make up our contribution. Why? because the work of the church needs it. Okay? I'm just telling you. That's the way it is. That we need to understand that we should make up, at least I think so, make up. Somebody turn to the book of Luke, Mark rather. This is I think sometimes and a lot of times abused passage. Okay? Let's start at verse 41 and we'll read through verse 44. I'll read. Now Jesus sat opposite of the treasury and saw how the people put money into the what? Now where is he located? He's in the temple and he's just sitting over there watching people put the money into the contribution, if you would. Okay, he's watching them. And he saw how that the people put money in the treasure, and many who were rich put in how much? Much. Did he condemn them for giving a lot of money? Shake your head this way. No, he did not. We're going to find out why he condemned them in just a moment. He gave a lot of money. Sacks full. I've seen pictures of it. His guy's got a big old sack to get over his head and throw it in the treasure. Well, it may be that much. Okay, I don't know why the person was doing it and you don't know, but we do. Now look at them. Then one poor widow came and threw in 2 what? Can anybody tell me what a mite is? Fraction of a penny. 2 fractions of a penny in this case, right? Fraction of a penny, that's good. Which were made a quadrant. And he called his disciples to himself and he said to them, Surely I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all those who have given to the treasury. She put in how much? If I read that right, she gave more. Gave more. What do you mean she gave more? Well,
Wouldn't that be all that she had?
Even their living. That's what the Bible
That's
says.
what I say. All that she had.
That's right. Now watch. I was going to go on to that, but thank you. In the treasure. And they all put in out of their what? Abundance. But she gave out of her what? Poverty. Even gave all that she had. Listen, it was a sacrifice for her to give. It was not really a sacrifice for the people who were throwing in the lot of money, the rich. In fact, it was just nothing. Just, okay, here you go, just more. That was the attitude. And he said, no. She gave all. She sacrificed in her giving. What about that class? What do you think?
Well, she contradicted just what you taught.
What's that?
So put a little back, save up for emergency.
You do.
But she gave all, so she wasn't doing that.
Well, she may not have been. I don't know what.
She gave all. We know she wasn't.
Was it all that she ever had? Is it all that she had that week? Is it all that she, that?
She did cast in all that she had, even all her living.
So what's going to happen next?
Somebody's going to have to help her.
Okay. I would agree. So are we saying that Jesus is wrong for praising her?
Well, if we're going to save back a little, then we can't give all.
Well, you got a valid point. However, I want to make an adjustment to what you just said. First of all, that was under the Old Testament, right? Am I wrong? It was under the Old Testament. This is preparing for Acts chapter 2. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, the events took place there was before the Old Testament was done away with on the cross. Yes, sir.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these other things will be added to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she gave all that she had. We don't know from the scripture about all the background, but she could have had the faith that if I give this to God, He is going to provide a way for me.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking that he's using her as a good example or great example, that he's not commanding that you do it this way. It's just a really good, kind of like his parables. It's a really good example.
I think it's more of an example, personally, more of an example of sacrificial giving. More than that, than how much they really gave. He was teaching them, this costs her something to give. And like Brother Steve said, giving is purposely. What does purposely mean? It's planned. That's right. We plan our giving. Okay? And we do. And I hope you do. It's important that we know how much we're going to give every time. Now, somebody says, what about you going to another congregation visit? Well, I may give a couple of dollars, but I do my giving back at the home congregation. Okay? That's where I made my commitment, is a home congregation. Okay? I don't give my contribution to somebody else when the church needs. Yes, sir.
I like to tell this story. I told you this story. When I had a family, I would take them to church and I would give of my means. I always started regretting it because I'd think about what I could do with that money.
Yeah.
It was the wrong attitude. When my buddy Kenny became a Christian a few years ago, he asked me, he said, what do I do about giving? Mm-hmm. And I told him this story. And I said, I had the wrong attitude. And I heard either you or Charles say a couple of weeks ago, everything we have is God's.
That's what I'm going to do right now.
Yeah, and so when I give, I don't think about, well, that's what I could do with that money. That's God's money right off the top. He gets the top. He gets the first of what I have. Because really everything I have is His.
Wasn't that required in the Old Testament? Yeah, but weren't they supposed to give 10% of the best?
Yeah.
The first fruits?
First fruits.
First fruits. First fruits are what? The best. Am I wrong about that? Help me out. The best. We grew a little garden this year. The first tomatoes, wow, you did really great. And as it got older, it got smaller and got twisted, and it started, I just tell you the best, and that's what God expects of us. Tom, you have something? Yes, sir.
And not only were they to give the best of their fruits, they left the edges of their field for the poor to come get too. So they gave 10% plus.
That's exactly right. And a lot of people don't know that or don't believe it. I won't admit it. But you're exactly right. It gave 10% plus. I tell people that sometimes. And they say, no, they just gave 10%. I don't argue with them. I just walk away. But they did. The first time I learned that principle that you just talked about, gave more than 10%, was Brother V.P. Black. Brother B.P. Black's got about 8 different books on giving. Little thin books, about thick as my finger, maybe 2 fingers, maybe a pinky and a finger, okay? But they're powerful, and I learned that from him, okay? He was up at Olive Branch, Mississippi one time, and I know the lady. She was an elderly lady at that time. I'm not going to call her name. Very sweet lady, but she had some misconceptions about different things. But she when she learned better, she did better. Okay? Usually when people learn something better, learn something more, learn something they didn't know, they do better. Okay? And she did that. Well, Brother VP taught on giving up there, one of the several lessons, and she got mad. I mean, she was upset, like usually people do. They get really upset about the subject. She got really upset. And then she got to thinking about what he said. And she wrote him a letter. It's in one of her books. One of his books, I should say. I forgot which one. Said, Brother Black, I was wrong. Thank you for teaching me the truth about giving. And he does. I mentioned a book last week. Do y'all remember the name of the book? It's a good book. Listen, I used to use Larry Burkett. Anybody know Larry Burkett? He's not a member of the church, but he did a lot of good stuff on stewardship and on budgeting and working home and having money and so forth. He did a lot of good in that work. But I'm using Steve Diggs now. Steve Diggs has a book on giving, No Sweat, okay? And something else. I forgot the last part of it. But anyway, he's got everything from giving, making money, about investing, about saving, emergency, insurance. A lot of people don't want to deal with insurance, but you know what? When the time comes they need it, they wish they had it. It's true. It is true. I get a little upset when I see this advertisement, Coventry. You seen that one on Coventry? Do you know what it means? What they say? Or if you got this and you got that and you got an insurance policy and you want to cash it in your older age, just bring it to us and we'll. What they do, they give you a fraction of what it's worth. Just tell you the truth, okay? And then I think, well, what about their bills when they die? Who's going to take care of those? Or what about hospital bill if they had to spend some time in the hospital? Don't give that away, you know. It'd be nice if it did. What about your burial? You know? A lot of people don't think about burial until it's too late. I'm dead. Okay, the kids take care of it. Well, you don't want some unhappy kids or unhappy family members, don't have something for your burial. They won't be happy.
Happy spouses.
That's right.
The children may be generous with their spouses will not be. Been there, done that.
Children may be generous, but the spouses may not be. Is that what you said?
That's what I said. I was not. We had to help one of his parents,
Yes.
and he was got the check. We need that. And he wrote it anyway. And then I thought about it. Now, if it was your parent, what would you do? So I got over it.
Well, let me say this. I commend anybody who takes care of their parents. But listen, you got to take care of family too. You got to. You know, you got a responsibility. Neglect that responsibility at home is not a good thing. Okay? But help your parents as much as you possibly can. I'm for it. Reba and I, right now, doing what we can to help her dad. Okay? He kind of ripped on his retirement when he was working for a certain company and he thought the money was going into paying it. It wasn't. It wasn't. So people can get gypped. Even people that you trust, that people can cause some serious problems in other people's families by not doing what we need to do. All right, where are we? I'm almost, let's look at Deuteronomy. I got it right here. Deuteronomy 10 and verse 14. Indeed, heaven and the highest heavens belong to whom? The Lord. Also the earth and all that is what? All of it. Everything. Not one thing is left out. The word all means all. It doesn't mean all but. It means all. God owns everything. And it's possible that we can forget that. We buy a car and say, oh, look at my new car. Or look at my new home. Or look at my whatever. And we forget that what we have, it came from God. God allowed us the ability. He provided the material out there that these things can be made. And we forget, hey, they belong to God. It's easy to forget, especially when you're getting tight. All right, here's another one. Exodus 19, look at this. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is what? Mine. Who's mine there? God. How about this one? Psalm 24 and verse 1. The earth is the Lord's and all of its, or all its fullness. The world and those who dwell in it. Everything. I think our society has probably hurt our thinking in our about material things. TV commercials. They advertise something and then they end it maybe with something like this. You deserve it. You heard that? You deserve it. And then you think about, you know what, I do deserve it. Let me go get it. You know? That's what happens to us if we're not real careful. And then here's another one. Leviticus 25 and verse 23. The land shall not be sold what? To whom is he speaking? Israelites. So, okay, you got the land, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to God. And if you sell it, you're not really selling it, you're probably renting it, basically. If you sell it, it comes back to God in the year of Jubilee. Okay? Or it goes back to the owner in the Jubilee, which belongs to God.
Same way with our pets, Robert. They're only on loan.
Well, actually, you made a good point. Even our lives here on earth, living here is on loan. It's temporary. And we need to keep in mind that life is fragile. It can end any second. It's almost like Chinese or Japanese paper. You ever seen Chinese to Japanese paper? Anybody know what I'm talking about? They talk about the China wall thing. That has to deal with the walls in their rooms were made of thin rice paper. Basically, you could see through it, okay? And you could hear through it. So when you hear about the Chinese wall, Chinese paper, wall, it's talking about that you can hear through it. Well, you can hear through what we have, basically, if we're not real careful. Depends on how loudly we get. Well, I guess I better stop right there because it's past time. Please forgive me for going over, please. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.